If you're gonna speak to someone that you never spoke to, you don't really know what to expect, right? So today's guest is a person that I personally never met at any other conferences. I never been in contact with a person before. Of course, everybody knows who this person is because he's a great pioneer and a very innovative and controversial person within iGaming. So, of course, I didn't know who he was, but I never met him in person or over Skype. But this guy, he is so amazing, and we had a great interview and chat about a lot of different things, such as great.com, Catena, philanthropic mindsets, how to build your social platforms, and actually also got a chance to find out who he is as a person a little bit. I think you're gonna enjoy this interview a lot with Erik Bergman, and give a thumbs up if you like it and continue watching. I'm really good.
That's marvelous.
Had a great weekend, and I'm ready for a new week, a full packed one.
It's Monday today. I'm not very good with days.
No.
I've never been very good with days. No, but yeah, it's Monday today. It's a new week. Usually my days are very similar regardless what day of the week it is.
Yeah, even though it's a Tuesday.
Fuck, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday today.
I'm not very good with days.
No, you said it, so it's completely fine.
I have many other talents. Days, not one of them. It's like a waste of skills to be good with days.
Exactly. You can focus on so many other things, but let's do weekdays. So I'm really thrilled that you wanted to do this interview with me and raise the awareness about yourself and great.com today.
Happy to be here. It's my pleasure.
I don't really want to focus on all the millions you earned or stuff like that. I want you to jump in straight to who are you? Like, I really want to know who Erik Bergman is from your perspective.
Sounds good.
Yeah, cool. So why don't you give me an intro about where did you grow up and who do you see yourself to be and stuff like that, how everything all started from the beginning.
Sure. So I come from a very normal, loving, supportive family in Jönköping, Sweden, small town. Grew up there, was a pretty lonely child growing up, didn't really belong anywhere. Had a brother who was very much entrepreneurial early on, so he took me on all kinds of adventures. Started with going around singing Christmas carols to our neighbors, using how beautifully cute 4-year-olds can be to get some coins. And then we started doing all kinds of small little business ventures after that as the serial entrepreneur of a 4-year-old. So we were collecting soda cans and bringing them back to the store and get some coins for that, and started selling bread, doing all kinds of things. Got into the gambling industry with Bingolotto, so this Swedish bingo lotto show, selling shitloads of lottery tickets when we were very young. So I made probably 50 euros a week or something like that selling lottery tickets when I was 10. So already then I was like, that was the first big business idea. And early on, as I mentioned, I was a pretty lonely kid and I didn't really find a way to belong. And then I moved when I was 13. I started a new school. And I started in this rich and fancy school in my hometown without really being rich and fancy. We were living far outside of the city, but it became that district. So actually I managed to get new friends somehow. And I never really had friends before, so I didn't really know how to interact with it well. And all of them had a lot of stuff that I never had. I couldn't afford the clothes. I couldn't afford the mopeds or cell phones that they had. So I felt a sense of inferiority amongst them. I felt I wasn't really good enough. Then I turned 16, 17, and I fell in love with poker. And I'd say poker was when I got introduced to the gambling industry for real. And I got really, really good at playing poker. I love the math. I love the psychology behind it. I love the game in general. And at age 18, I got really good. I started playing poker professionally. I started making significant money from it. And I wanted to finally show that I was good enough. So I spent all this money on things that could be seen, on clothes that I couldn't afford before, and champagne and a car and whatnot. And I ended up stop winning, but keeping the expensive lifestyle. And getting ruined from that. I had to move back in with my parents again after graduating school and couldn't really afford the lifestyle that I had. And that's when I found entrepreneurship again after several failed attempts and started doing bingo affiliation. And I started with my childhood friend Emil, who became the co-founder of Catena Media. And we started building bingo websites that made no money at all in the beginning. First year, we managed to make $1,000, but that was enough to kind of spark that curiosity and that interest. And ever since then, I've just been trying things. I've realized that I'm a doer, and I love to see if something works by trying if it works. And it was a very good combination with Emil, because he was a computer genius. He built his first calculator when he was 8. And I had a lot of ideas, and he could make them kind of technically happen. So everything that led to Catena Media, this is now 2008, 9, 10. So I'm somewhere 20, 22 years old before Catena even started. And it was all of the time, it was my ideas and he who could make them happen. So we were a very good combo of people. And yeah, I guess I'm an idea person who is good with people, and I love to see things happen. So that's a short story of, or a pretty long story of, who I am and how I got to be here.
I think it's pretty much summarized a lot about you. And I mean, as you mentioned, we all want to kind of belong, obviously, and finding our right crowd and right ways of doing different things. And as you mentioned as well, I mean, you're a doer. You have a lot of ideas. You're a pioneer within our iGaming industry. A lot of people look up to you because obviously what you've accomplished. But I think it's also really important to highlight the people that you've been working with. Like you mentioned, Emil. You both put faith in each other and kept going forward.
Yeah, without him, there would have been none of the success, definitely not. And lots of other beautiful, brilliant people that joined on later on the journey. But yeah, without him, there would have been nothing.
No, for sure. I mean, now you kind of showed yourself and, you know, with building Catena and everything, as I mentioned, people look up to you. And I think a lot of people really put you high up on a pedestal.
Yes.
I think you would agree to that. And now when you started, I would say new project, but great.com. I met a lot of people throughout different events that I think this project and idea is extremely innovative. Some might have said that it's very controversial and they haven't really understood the project itself. What would you want to say to these people that haven't really been able to comprehend the project and don't really understand what great.com is or will become?
I think it's fully understandable that people don't really grasp what it is that we're doing. I barely understand it myself, to be honest. So what I started with in this project is very upside down for how Catena was built and how many other companies were built. And by far biggest challenge I believe that all the gambling companies have, and for that matter, all other companies have, is recruitment. How do you find the best talent? And any problem that you have can be solved if you're good enough at recruitment. So I started great with that thought in mind, like how can we be immensely good at recruitment? And that's one of the reasons why I've been so focused on building social media presence, focusing on podcasts, focusing on interviews, focusing on building an Instagram and like a Twitter presence. Because it's made it so much easier to recruit. So pretty much everyone who works with Great now has found us thanks to those things. So this has been the first challenge that I wanted to solve before even building a product, is how can we make sure really smart people will want to work with us? For example, now we put out a role about a podcast coordinator. So someone will run our podcast and do everything in the background. And we got 500 applicants from one Instagram post, out of which 25 was really, really good. And now we're down to 2 people, and both of them, we can't decide because they're so super good. So now both of them are going to work for 6 weeks so we can decide. And they have both agreed to that because they so much want to join this project. So I believe one of the main reasons why it's hard to understand what Great is, looking from the outside, is that it's currently a recruitment machine. Currently, it's not a casino affiliate. Currently, it's how do we attract the best people? And we're only 8 people right now. And all of them are people that I feel in my heart that I would want to work with for 30 years. And I've never been around people like that in a working environment before. I never met people that have that kind of community feeling that it is here, with people that I greatly admire, each and every one of them. And that was the opposite of when we started Catena, because I didn't know anything about recruitment back then. I just hired people who were like me. Now I'm hiring people who are the opposite of me. I only hired people who knew less than I did because I didn't know how to hire anyone else. Now I only hire people who know more than I do on a lot of things. So it's very hard to understand what Great is if you're trying to understand Great, because it's currently just recruitment. And if you look at it from the very, very long-term perspective, and when I say very long-term, I mean the next 50 years, what I want Great to become is the most trusted website on the internet, where people go to find information about any purchase decision that they can do on any kind of product, regardless if that is buying a new pair of headphones or trying a casino, or I don't know, buying a space shuttle or whatever people will do 50 years from now. That I want it to be a synonym for trust. Because right now, if you go to Amazon, which is one of the most trusted websites in the world, you can read reviews, but they're always done by one person on that product. There isn't really one website that reviews everything and is unbiased about what it is. And I believe that since Great will give away 100% of our profits to charity, we can actually be unbiased. We don't have an incentive of going for whoever pays the most or what does the most. So the long-term vision is to create something that compares all kinds of products within everything. And then you go from there to where we are today. And we're starting with the gambling industry. We start with casino. And the reason for that is simply that I've been in the gambling industry for the last 14 years. I know this industry. I know how to do it. I know there is a lot of money in it. I know that it is an industry where very little of the money made in it would go to charity otherwise. So if we can create something that gets money from this industry to charity, I believe that that can make a huge impact. But all in all, we're working completely upside down. We're not starting, when we built Catena, it was one bingo website. It's the first thing we focused on making money from day one. Now we're 2 years into this and we've had 0 NDCs so far, which is a horrible way from a business perspective. But I believe it's a great way to do it if you want to make a difference by the year 2070.
But so let's say that you would give away 100% to charity. How will you continuously fund the project and make sure that, you know, it's something?
We will give away 100% of the profits. So we will obviously have costs. And so far we have 100% costs. So I'm funding everything right now. But the long-term hope, and I don't know if that can be done, the long-term hope is to run the business with very high margins like they can be in the affiliate industry. Before Catena started going for the stock exchange and really scale things up and build it really big, we were running at an 80% profit margin, which isn't unheard of in the gambling industry as an affiliate. So hopefully we could get there a few years from now, and then 80% of the revenues will be donated and 20% will cover costs. Or if we reach 50, I think that's very good.
Just to build on a little bit about Great and the operators that you're going to work with.
I know you mentioned as well, obviously, that you have been a poker player yourself for many years, and in the US, it's a lot of poker tournaments, especially where the profit and all the margins go straight to charity. So in US, they're very well aware of charity and the philanthropic way of live and breed charity within business, such as Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey and so on. So will you focus on US, and do you think that there are some countries in Europe, let's say Scandi, Sweden, Norway, Finland, that don't quite understand this concept yet because they haven't been introduced to this philanthropic way of living?
I believe that philanthropical, it's a status thing in a sense to do philanthropical endeavors in the US, and in the Scandinavias you're more supposed to be secretive about it, which I believe is sad. I think that Bill Gates is the biggest hero of mankind. According to the research I've read, their foundation is responsible for saving 8 million lives in total so far, and that's just astonishing. So from a business perspective, we will be a very normal business. We will focus on regulated countries to start with. So right now we're doing New Jersey in the US and Sweden, and we will take that into other regulated states or countries. So the charity aspect of things will not be a business driver. It might help us to get links, it might help with SEO, but we're not going to use that much as a selling point. Play with us because the money will go to charity. Mainly because I don't think that casino players are very driven by that. It's more, I don't need the money. I don't necessarily want the money. I want to work for a bigger purpose. So the purpose of giving away the charity has nothing to do with that it makes sense for the business model. It has to do with where I am in my life and what I want to accomplish.
I think if I would play and I would go, start to gamble at one of the casinos that you listed on great.com, and if we look in terms of responsible gambling, if I know that I can afford to lose 50 euros, and if I lose 40 and I know that they go to something greater than me, for a charity, for a good cause, that would actually might ease my mind. And I believe also that the casino industry in general would have a more positive view and outcome. I mean, if you look today, what certain people think about our industry, they lose money and we have the nice cars, etc. But if you know that it goes to charity, you actually maybe have a more nice approach of being able to lose money as well.
I hope so. I mean, if I were to choose personally, if to play somewhere there where the money I lose go to something good, or where the money I lose go to, well, someone like me who's already made a lot of money in the industry and don't really need it, then I would definitely rather give the money to a good cause.
Yeah. And when you sign up and if you want to work with great.com, how does your affiliate program look like towards the operators? Will you have full visibility of statistics, and how do you operate with the operators?
So as of now, we're just getting started. So we have very limited systems for anything. My goal, as it looks in my head, and this is way into the future, is to be able to share any kind of data that there is with both the operators and the visitors and whatever. I don't believe in secrets. I don't believe there is many secrets to be held. I think it's much better to just transparently show everything. So I would like to show exactly how much we earn from a player to a casino. If possible, it's not always easy to track who has done what or how that worked, but at least show how much money did we generate from Leo Vegas in this or that month, and how much of that went to covering our cost, and how much of that can we manage to donate in the future. And the more we can break this down, the better, but we will still be limited by the affiliate platforms, the data that there is there, and all of these things. But for our business perspective, I don't want to keep anything secret because I don't think it benefits us. I think it benefits the industry much more and the people much more and the player much more by simply keeping everything out in the open.
And what can the players expect from your website in terms of responsible gambling and information?
So my goal with creating great.com is to create a product that does more good to people, even within the gambling industry, than it does harm to people. And what I mean by that is that we will definitely have problem gamblers coming to our sites. We might have people start playing that wouldn't have played otherwise. They might be interested just because they heard that it's about charity and they find us that way and they start playing and they wouldn't have played otherwise. And I would like to create a website where it's more people who stops playing than starts playing. And what I mean by that is if we have 100% exposure to give away, looking at any affiliate websites, 99.9% of that exposure goes to gambling and 0.1% goes to the gamble aware link in the footer. And no one is really intended to see it. What I'm hoping to create is having maybe 10% of all the exposure going to responsible gambling situations and really responsible things, not just a link. But if you're logging in from Selima in Malta, then I would like to have information on the right side or wherever. It's like, okay, these are the different gambling addiction meetings you could do. This is how you can see if someone is actually playing too much. And on the like vast scale of things, make more people who have problems stop playing than start playing. And this doesn't make business sense in the short term, or maybe not in the long term, but it goes once again with our goal of making the world a better place. And we don't want to do that on the expense of people. Some people are still going to get hurt, I'm afraid, but hopefully we will make more people stop gambling than we will create people who start gambling. And that's like an overarching like belief and value that we want to have as an organization.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I also really like where we're going within this industry, you know, where we're creating personas and we actually front our names with projects. So players and all the people in our surroundings can actually know, you know, like this is, you know, Erik Bergman. And they can find you on your social media platforms such as Instagram, and they can get a sense of who we really are. That creates a lot of trust, and I think it's very important. So for you, I know Instagram, it's your little baby as well. Yes. Where you post a lot of motivational quotes and videos, etc. Yes. How did you manage to grow your Instagram account, and what can you give the audience as a, you know, your top 3 best tips of how to grow a social media platform?
Okay, so let's start in a little bit of a different direction, where social media was actually a very important part about Catena way before Catena became Catena, because I was blogging a lot back in 2008, 9, 10, 11. And I was very active in forums and did a lot of things in the social medias of those days. And I believe it benefited Catena a lot when it comes to building links, building relationships, recruiting. And I did everything back then in my own name, and it helped us with lots of different things. And I believe there is a benefit to anyone to do what you're doing right now, put your name out there for people to see, because it's going to benefit your career. And if you want to build links somehow, could put out content, people would know who you are. So I think creating something when it goes to SEO or affiliation in your own name, regardless if you're working on your own as an affiliate or if you're working at Betson or whatever, there is a value in that. So when it comes to Instagram success, I started doing YouTube videos a few years ago, and I did it for like 8 weeks, one video a week, and it took way too much energy. So I just gave up. It was too hard. And I didn't do anything on social media for like another year. And then I tried LinkedIn and I didn't really enjoy it. I tried Twitter. I didn't really enjoy it. I started Facebook groups. I didn't really enjoy it. And then I started with Instagram, and I realized that I enjoyed writing captions. I didn't enjoy the pictures, but I enjoyed writing captions. They were long enough to do something meaningful and still short enough to write them pretty quickly. And then I started playing around. How can I enjoy the pictures? How can I enjoy that part? And I started looking at a lot of different accounts, and I basically just copy pasted their ideas with my own captions. So I read some motivational quote by Einstein or whoever, and I tied it together with some Catena story or a life story of mine or anything like this. And then suddenly both things became fun. It got fun to find the quote. It got fun to creatively come up with a way of tying it together. And it got fun to do it that way. So then it's like, okay, I want to do this one post a week. And I started scheduling. So I always were 4 weeks ahead, because the problem for me has been I do too much and then I stop and then I kind of quit. So that was like, okay, I'm not going to do too much at a time. So when I had one post a week queued up for 4 weeks, I added in another post per week and then another post per week. So then suddenly I was doing one post per day, but I was always 4 weeks ahead. So I always had 4 weeks to get on with it. So it was important that I enjoyed the process. I had fun with it. And then I started to say, okay, there is actually traction on this. People like what I'm doing. So like the first tip that was a long way there, but make sure that you have fun with what you do. Because if you don't have fun, you are going to give up. The second tip there is that don't do too much at one time. Don't put the bar too high, because you're going to give up from that reason. Don't try to do one podcast a day, because someday you're going to get sick or you're going to get bored or whatever. So always plan ahead. And the third tip in this is collaborations, because that's the most important thing I would say in my Instagram growth. So I've gone from almost zero to 230,000 followers now, or something like that, in 9 months. And it's been all about collaborations. So there's some extent organic growth, some extent people finding it, but it's much more me collaborating with other big accounts and either paying them in money or in some other way to get them to write about me. So it's not, you have to do that to grow rapidly, I would say, unless you have the by far best content in the world. So that's the third tip, like realize that you need other people to get there. On your own, it's going to be really, really hard.
It's going to take a long time.
Yes, if at all. You're probably going to give up. Because the problem is, if you look at any video on YouTube about how to grow Instagram accounts or how to grow a social following, they will focus only on how to grow a following, but no one will tell you about how to have fun with what you do, or no one will tell you about how to learn things about what you do, or no one will tell you about how to add value with what you're doing. And if you're missing having fun, missing adding value, missing learning, you're really quickly going to give up if your followers don't increase. Like if your purpose with this podcast was to make as much money as possible, you will probably give up pretty quickly, because it's not easy to make money with a podcast. But as long as your purpose is to have fun and to learn and to give value to others, then you're going to keep going regardless if you make money or not. Because I believe that you have fun with this podcast. I believe that you bring a lot of value, and I'm sure that you've learned a lot. So it's the difference, because there's no reason to give up, because you're getting that value for yourself anyway, without the money or the numbers. But that's what people talk about. That's what people measure. That's the follower count. That's the number of listeners. That's the downloads. That's all of these things. And it's so easy to see that number and forget about all the other things that actually keeps you going.
Totally agree. And as you said, I was so scared in the beginning to do this. I've been thinking about it for a really long time, trying to narrow it down why I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it, how I wanted to be presented, etc. But now, since the first video was live on YouTube, I was like, okay, it's live. So now I can't take
It's a scary day.
Yeah, it was a scary day to just press the button. But now I'm just really enjoying it. And of all these, all the people I speak to, I just learn so much. And you really get a bigger picture of iGaming in general. And I really enjoy speaking to people and actually get a feeling of who they are. Just not a name on Skype, or knowing their accomplishments online or within this industry. Actually, know what kind of music they like. And yeah, I really enjoy this.
I like Swedish hip hop. Always liked Swedish hip hop.
Okay,
kind of
fine. We all have our different music taste.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Erik, for let me having you here, Casino by Her. And
thank you for having me.
Speak soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.